Hey everybody, it's Nick and it's Jay, and we're back for another year of Lemons Racing. It's 2020.
You say that with such enthusiasm.
Oh, but I keep it on the inside. I don't want to get people's hopes up too high.
Fair enough.
Anywho, as we often do, we started the season at Barber Motorsports Park, the Shine Country Classic in Birmingham, Alabama. And because it's a new year, and because our teams like staying abreast of current events, we had the Squirtin' Coronas team, which of course did a very good, if a little bit confusing, coronavirus theme.
We have the cure for the coronavirus! Right here! Don't stop the truck! Keep moving!
So I always love it when teams drive their race car to the track. Now, driving your race car to the track has the problem of you have to be able to drive it home from the track, but we're not going to worry about that.
It's a much bigger problem.
225 Slant 6 Valiant. They drive this car to the track, they have a giant metal roof rack full of lemons, parts, and supplies, and then they drive it home. Awesome.
Our friends at Done Racin' and the AMX-bodied BMW Z3, it's the only Lemons car in history to have ever blown its own doors off.
Yeah, so these guys tow this very fancy race car to the track with this old cargo van, which I think is great.
You know, that license plate really would have been better suited to the cargo van belonging to Team Dirty Air in their Chevy Nova.
That's true. Now, we did have 3 second-generation Camaros at this race, or as Eric calls them, the Confederate BMW. We were tempted to do a whole shtick about which Camaro sucked least. It's early in the year. We don't have the energy for that.
I ain't got time for that
The short answer is that the Van Halen Camaro sucked the least because it only blew up 5 hours before the end, not 20 hours and 24 hours before the end.
Grassroots Motorsports finally decided that they were never going to have success building their own Chidi Miata for a Lemons race, and so they did what any sensible team full of automotive journalists would do. They went and they bought a existing Lemons car that also happened to be a Volkswagen Fox.
Actually, let me interrupt you right there because you just had a sentence that said what any sensible automotive journalist would do, and it included the word afterward, bought. Totally not a true statement.
They didn't like the way the Volkswagen Fox looked as it sat, so what they did was they went to a race car wing shop, which incidentally is run by Judge Eric's former Lemons teammate, so you know that the parts are going to be quality.
Pure quality, baby.
They put a humongous wing on the back, they put a humongous wing on the front. This thing was generating 19,000 pounds of downforce at 52 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I saw online one of the guys from that team after the race, he actually wrote a post that said, I could tell when I came up behind another car, it was stealing the air off of my front wing. No, you couldn't.
Yes, it did. No, it didn't. Yes, he did. No, he did not.
Our favorite Russian, Sasha,
You don't know what you're talking about, idiot.
was back with Team Sputnik and another real crappy-ass Nissan. This time it was a Nissan Access. It blew up after 1 lap. And then he sent his minions off to a junkyard and said, go buy an engine that has some compression.
Yeah, which they did. They came back, they put it in the car, and it ran like... The other thing Sasha did at this race, he built a Ural sidecar replica out of a dumpster dive bicycle, a central steering wheel, a mechanic's creeper, and a 22 horsepower Harbor Freight motor. It was really the scariest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah, but I talked to people who took this thing for a spin, and they said, man, once they got on it, it was like... Now, Ragged Racing and their Corvette, we like these guys, but they made one big mistake this weekend, and that was passing too close to the safety truck during a yellow flag to the point where the emergency worker said, hey man, that Corvette almost ran us over. Don't do that. That's something we take really seriously.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think this is? The NASA 25 hour? It is not. And in fact, it's really so serious that we resurrected the classic cone of shame penalty, which I think we're going to that's back in the repertoire. We're going to do this a lot more. The cone of shame was great. You would have to go out, you'd have to find a big, ugly cone on the track. You'd have to bolt it securely to the top of your car, and then for the rest of the weekend, everybody knows you have transgressed. Look for more cones of shame, or stop doing stuff that deserves it.
We had a couple of Dodge Daytonas at this race. One of them was mediocre.
Yeah, and then the other one was...
If you ain't first, you're last.
Hella Sweet, I think, is the team called Mustang. Now, they had an SC400 originally.
Yeah, and let me just talk a second about old Lexuses. Here's the thing about old Lexuses. They're nice cars, right? But if you have a Lexus that's under 20 years old, you're gonna look like this. And if you own a Lexus that's older than 20 years old, you're gonna look like this.
So we'll let you guys judge what camp these fellas belonged in, but they also had a Mustang. And the SC400 did not work, but the motor was good. And the Mustang was a Mustang, but the motor didn't work, so they put the SC400 motor, I believe that's a 1A, what is that thing?
1UZFE.
No shit. So they put that Lexus motor in that Mustang, they got it out on the racetrack, and really the only remaining question is, would it all end in transmission failure tears?
Well, yes.
Hella Sweet, the Dunning-Kruger effect team made this super awesome window graphic for their Subaru.
Now we should mention that the Dunning-Kruger effect is a phenomenon where capable people tend to undersell their abilities and incapable people tend to oversell their abilities. Man, there's gotta be a joke in there somewhere, but I'm just not that funny.
Oh, well, look, I got this. I'm hilarious.
Florida man racing dug out of the Florida swamp this 300ZX, and it hadn't run forever. Until the Lemons race, they got it fired up and the aroma of bad gas permeated the paddock, but most importantly, they had a really sweet Star Trek Kobayashi Maru theme.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Now, as you know, we really don't care about class winners very much. There are occasional exceptions, and this race was one of them. There were two teams, the Old Dudes Ranchero and the Loose Lug Nuts Maxima, that have been trying to win their classes for years. I mean, 6 or 7 years each. And it really raises this question of if you keep doing the same insufficient thing badly over and over and over again, can you ever get a different result?
Well, yes.
Heroic Fix went to Donkey's Flying Carpet and their Chevy Camaro.
And I just gotta say, it's a great irony that this is a Camaro sponsored by a bookstore.
I never learned to read.
They swapped in a supercharged Buick 3800 V6, which is something we've seen a couple of times in Lemons. It's super awesome. One downside is the packaging is such that the intake is basically in the driver's face, so when you drive it, all you hear is the honk coming from the intake, which kind of brings up the point. You know, BMW famously piped engine sound into the cabin through the car stereo and a series of solenoids and electronics. They could have just done this.
Now, this team has a spare engine for this race car, but they got together before the race and they said, nah, we ain't got to bring that. They did. So, 8 hours on the road later and a 24-hour thrash to pull out the old motor, put the new motor in. They did get back out on the track, 2 hours for the checkered flag, at which point the second motor also blew up.
I Got Screwed went to Freedom of Flight and their BMW E36. This is only this team's second race. They've got a lot of enthusiasm, and sure enough, they went out and they crashed. And we just chalked that up to, hey, these guys are just getting into Lemons. That thing sometimes kind of happens. Turns out, that wasn't the whole story.
No. The whole story is this. At the previous race, which was their first race, they knew they had to disable the steering lock, and they didn't know how to disable the steering lock.
Yeah.
So they went on the internet, and they said, oh, you drill this out, and then you poke that out, and they did those things. And for the first race, that kind of worked, but what they did not realize is there were still chunks of steering lock in their old steering lock. So on this race, they are driving along. Man, this is awesome. Uh-oh, brrr, clang. We don't like this. Don't do this wrong. This is a thing you need to do right.
The good news was they got the front end put together thanks to the help of the team with the Pinto that caught on fire. Hey, did I say Pinto that caught on fire?
And that was good enough for the special trophy, Best Fulfillment of an Automotive Stereotype.
We don't make the jokes, we just tell them.
The life of the paddock party went to Duff Racing. Now they're currently running a Volvo, but they've run a Triumph Stag and a Jet Electric, all kinds of great stuff. Through it all, they always bring lots of beer, they set up lots of food, they're always having a great time. So those guys, Jerry Ringel was the host this time. Good party, thank you.
Judge's choice went to Junk Mail Racing and their Subaru. These guys were pretty much invisible all weekend, which is often what it takes to win the Judge's choice. No penalties, no black flags, no problems with anybody. They just circulated and circulated and circulated. However, they left before the award ceremony, and you must be present to win.
So there was another Subaru, right? I mean, isn't there another Subaru? Yeah. PBR Racing.
PBR Racing, Judge's choice.
Organizer's choice went to Thin Blue Swine and their very nicely presented Ford Thunderbird. Remember earlier in this, I was saying I love it when people drive their race car to the track, race, and then drive home. Well, these guys, they're all cops, and that makes it all the more embarrassing that the one who owns the trailer had the trailer stolen from in front of his house in broad daylight, and they never found it again. So they said, you know what? They called us up and they said, can we drive our car to the track? And I said, yes, you absolutely can drive your car to the track. That would be great. Just make sure that you're able to drive it home from the track. And I said, well, I probably. They did it. Car kept running. They didn't crash. They got home. Really well done.
So there were 2 Ford Pintos in this race. You guys remember the first one. And here's the second one. By process of elimination, IOE.
Here's Lemons in a nutshell. Subaru driver, a priest, and a duck walk into a bar, right? And the duck looks around and says, give me one of them there vape pens, man. And then the Subaru driver says, give me some meth. Oh man, like I'm on the WRX team, man, and this thing's awesome. I thought this was a kosher delicatessen. And then the duck looks around and says, I'm not even in this joke.